Hello, and welcome to this quick tutorial on getting Pokemon Rocketlocke all set up. Now, what I'm going to be going over here will mostly consist of using the zip that I have down in the description. It contains a Pokemon Platinum ROM, the randomizer, my own personal seed that you can see me using in my various highlights, and the emulator itself, Desmume. Now, I'll obviously explain a lot of this as I go, but the first thing to do after downloading the zip is to extract it. Now, in order to do that, you will first need Winrar. I'll probably put a link to that down in the description. But here's what WinRAR looks like, and here's what you'll see when you just open the zip. From here, you're just going to right-click, and then extract to specified folder. Now, I just did it to desktop, so that's it right over here. No need to show you, I've already got the product. So, from there, you go into the folder, and you have the randomizer and the emulator. First, exploring the emulator, we have the EXE here. This is what gives you your window for DS games, and it's from here that you'll be able to play whatever version of Pokemon you so choose. In this example, I'm going to be using Platinum because it's the one provided, and it's the one Dookie Shed is using. So, there are a variety of things here, with battery cheats, ROMs, and states, and then a lot of stuff here that you don't really need to worry. As long as you notice the EXE, that's all you really need to care about here. And then, in the ROMs folder, you should have the original version of Pokemon Platinum, unrandomized and everything, so you could play a standard game. And then this one right here, while also being a ROM to be played on the emulator, is my specific seed. Now, when I say that, it means the exact randomizations that were made for my game are all contained on that version. So, you can see the text file there provides a list of the different things that were changed. You can see what my starters were set to. You can see what all the trainers' Pokemon were changed to. I don't typically look at this while I'm playing because then it ruins the surprise. But the point is you have a complete log of the changes if you want to look at it. But this is also for my specific seed, and yours can obviously be greatly different. So, since you already have this, if you have this zip already downloaded, then you already have the emulator, as well as the original ROM, and so there's no need to go to any websites to download those. You've already got them, and you already have the Pokemon Randomizer, which is our other folder here. So, going into here, we have a list of presets for different randomization settings. And right here, I added my own that's just named Rocketlocke. And so, this already has all the settings you need in order to play a Rocketlocke version of a standard Platinum game. So the way that we use this is we go to randomizer.jar. Now, this process can be a little confusing if it doesn't work properly, but as long as you have Java 1.6 or higher, then this ought to work. The way that I handle this easily is I open with Java Platform SE binary. What this does is it basically just executes the code of this program. Mine defaults to a program where I can edit code, so I have to do it from here. I assume if you have this symbol it'll work. This is probably the spot where a lot of people are going to get caught up, and I'm going to have to kind of go in case-by-case basis. So, if you can do this part, cool. If not, leave a comment, and I'll see how I can help. But if you do have this, and all you have to do is click, and it'll run the program. In doing so, you get your Pokemon randomizer right here. It's a pretty simple operation to do whatever it is you want to do to your Platinum ROM. Now, you'll notice all this stuff is currently grayed out, except these buttons over here. Now, what you first have to do is load the ROM that you're going to use. We already have our ROM, so all we have to do is just come back up the folder, so we're in the main Rocketlocke folder. Smume, ROMs, grab the original Platinum version ROM. So it loads it up, and as you can see, everything is currently unchanged, and there are a lot of options to use here. Now, you could go through and look at the rules and change everything by hand, so base statistics are fine, abilities are fine, starter Pokemon, random basic Pokemon with 2 evolutions, Pokemon types are unchanged, movesets are unchanged, trainers Pokemon are random, etc, etc. Or, you can just use the preset that I mentioned earlier. In order to do that, you just hit Load Settings, and it brings you straight to this list, at which point you can choose Rocketlocke and Open. It'll tell you the settings have been loaded, and as you can see, I didn't go any farther than Trainers Pokemon, or checkmarking any of these, and it's all just loaded up with all the stuff you need to know. Just like in Dookie Shed's run, the static legendaries will stay legendary, and if you have any questions about any of these settings, just hovering over a given setting will show you what it means. So the legendaries will be swapped, but they will still be legendaries. Wild Pokemon will not be legendary, but they will be random. I also have similar strength on, so I don't go up against like a level 60 on Route 201. Trainers Pokemon are random. Rival carries a starter through the game, so that even when it's one of your random starters, he'll still have it throughout the game like in any normal playthrough. Pokemon with similar strength, because you don't want to get blown out of the water. Don't use legendaries, because you really don't want to give your rival those. And, yes, also the in-game trades, Dookie Shed has both randomized. TMs are also random. Compatibility, you can set it to random or prefer same type, but if you just leave it as unchanged, then, for example, the first TM you get in Platinum is TM27, which is Return, which is learnable by most Pokemon. So even though the move will be different, in my case it was Fire Punch, it's still able to be learned by any Pokemon who could have learned Return. You could probably use any of these settings you want. I'm pretty sure Dookie Shed, as well as myself, are using unchanged. But yeah, so again, you don't have to edit any of this yourself. Just from going to Load Settings and choosing Rocketlocke, not naming it, we'll go ahead and load up all of these settings anyway. Another one to note is the Change Impossible Evolutions, which, as you can see, it'll list them. Trade evolutions, because you won't be able to go outside of just your one game to trade with other copies of the ROM. You'll have those changed so that it just happens at a given level. And yeah, that's about it for what you need set up. Again, the load settings handles all of it. I just wanted to cover each thing. Now, the next step in making sure that you play the game with these random settings is you then have to save the game. You have to officially randomize the information on the ROM and save it as a separate ROM. So I want to put my ROM with all the others, so I just go back up a folder to the main folder. About that later. Go into ROMs, and then I'm just going to name this one. You can name it whatever, but I'm just going to call this one Example Rocketlocke. And so it'll save. And you can choose to have the log file or not. I'm going to, for the sake of proving it's a different randomization. And the log file saves right in the same spot. You have your seed so that you can just send that to someone, or you could just, give them the actual ROM that you're using. I'm not going to go ahead and mess with any of that, and you don't necessarily need to either. So, we are now done with the randomizer. That's done. And so if we go back, sorry for the small interruption there. If we then go back to our ROM folder, where we originally pointed out we had the original version of my specific seed, we now have a new version of our Pokemon Platinum ROM. And with it, we also have the log. Now, if I go ahead and open the log, we can see that on this one, the starters are Ghastly, Rhyhorn, and Nidoran male. Besides that, you have your list of all of these. It's all just different information than what was on mine, but still following the rules for Rocketlocke. So you can see it's on the same level. So you can see the starters are different, but none of this information is different. Things like changing the quote-unquote impossible evolutions will be the same from file to file, and then things like starters and trainer Pokemon are going to change in each one. So yeah, now that we have our new ROM, we're ready to go ahead and load that into the emulator. So, going back up one file, come back to our emulator exe, open it. You can do this full screen or just right here. I use full screen because it just allows me to see more. From here, I'm going to click this little open button, and it'll bring you to your ROM folder immediately. That's why we put them there, so that they're more easily accessible and you don't have to go digging through folders. So we have just the original version of Platinum, we have my version, and then we have the example one we've just created. So you do that, you hit open, and it just starts playing. The next thing is being able to steal trainers' Pokemon. This is separate from the randomizer and is an action replay cheat code. I didn't know this until partway into my playthrough, as seen in one of my highlights. I'll probably put that in the description as well. Let's go ahead and mute this. That way it just doesn't get in the way. So, in Tools, Cheats, and then depending on whether or not you hit List or Search, you're not going to see anything here because we haven't entered a cheat code for this ROM yet. So, what you want to do is add cheat code as action replay, because that's where the code originally comes from, is an action replay. And then this code is a little weird. You look it up online and then you just enter it. In the strictest sense, it's just binary. But yeah, I simply just looked up Pokemon Platinum Steel Trainers Pokemon. And from here, the first result went ahead and gave me this crazy string of stuff right here. And that's what you have to enter. Presumably you could do this for all other versions of Pokemon. But let's get it so I can see these on the same screen. There's that. Back into Tools, Cheats, Lists. It has Action Replay. And then you just enter the text you see here. So, 948000004. While I'm doing this, I'll go ahead and explain that this is all just strict computer, like, binary. This is just going in and changing values where they are in the memory to different things. settings. So you just kind of enter everything as it says. My caps lock isn't on, it just automatically does that, so you know it's not case sensitive. Alright. And then you can add a description if you wish, in case you plan on using multiple cheat codes ever. And turn on code is checked by default, that way when you just hit add... Oh, whoops, did I mess up? Zeros, 4... Oh, that was the problem. This one isn't full length. Okay, so we have an action replay code, and it'll allow us to steal trainers' Pokemon. Save. That's all we need that for. So, back to our ROM. The only other thing you may want to do is mess with the controls. Let me just point that out more clearly. Config, control config will allow you to get to this. Here, you just click to start, and then just enter in whatever buttons it happens to be. You could just do A, B, C, D, E, etc. And you can just click and move around as you need to for all the buttons that a DS would have. Don't worry about LID, don't worry about anything like up left, down left, or debug. Just, and it'll automatically zip over to the next one for you anyway. See? So, I have a 360 pad that I use, so the directions look really silly, but I know I'm hitting up, left, down, right. Oops, that's the wrong one. With the 360 pad, the A, B, X, and Y are laid out slightly differently, but I like to just keep it in line with the original layout of the DS controls, so they're a little backwards. Is left one, this is the top one, then I've already got start, select, L, and R bound. Okay. And then for the touchscreen, you only have to use your mouse. So, as you can see, I can boot up the ROM just fine. And it just goes into all the intro stuff for the game. The proof that this works would be in my highlights section, where you can see that I have started with non-traditional Pokemon, random Pokemon appear in the wild, all the settings that you need. The one thing that I just didn't know until a certain point was the action replay code. And that exact string that I entered, if you want to go back and pause that, will work for Pokemon Platinum. It's a little buggy, as you can see in my highlights, but it works, and that's what's important. So I think that's about all I have to cover. Leave your questions in the comments section, and good luck with your Rocketlocke, Grunt.